Once again, welcome everyone to Insight Meditation Committee of Charlotte. I'm Clyde, one of your Dharma leaders here. I want to take a moment to see does anyone notice on the videos any difference in the sound or the picture or anything? Any difference? You're all connected, but no big difference. All right, everything's okay? Okay, good, because we got some new equipment here. And I want to say what we're doing, and I want to big a thank you to Gray here, who spent a lot of time, not so much on this, on getting we have a real strong signal here, so we're back at the front of the chapel, and hopefully we'll be able to stay connected to everybody as we go through the evening. And I need to do one more thing, maybe. Okay. Okay, then. Tonight, we are going to begin our summer series. Our spring series. I'm sorry, our spring series. Like I said, it's been a busy day. And we're bringing it into the talk also, not into just the meditation. It comes into the talk also, so just get ready. And the title of our series is the spring series. It's a Wednesday night series. It's called Living in Community, the Brahma Viharas. And the Dharma leaders got together when we think about this and think, what are we doing right now? What is the Sangha doing right now? And people in the Sangha are beginning to come together more. There's more of us here tonight than there have been since we've gotten back. And people are starting to go out and do things and interact more. So what are some of the practices that we have that can help us as we begin to engage with more people, as we begin to live in community? And we thought the main teaching there is the Brahma Viharas. And those are the divine abodes. There's loving kindness, there's compassion, there's sympathetic joy, and there's equanimity. And I'm going to quickly give you the Pali terms for these, and you won't hear them again in my talk. And Pali was the language that was spoken in the time of the Buddha. Metta, loving kindness is metta, which we do here every week. Compassion is karuna. Sympathetic joy is mudita. And equanimity is upekkha. So you may hear those words. And sometimes, particularly with metta and loving kindness, I kind of go between the two sometimes. And so tonight, there's four. We're going to have 5 Wednesday nights. So tonight, I'm going to do an overview. And then after tonight, you'll be hearing about each one of these more in depth. So I'm going to be doing this overview. And I'm going to look at some of the overall characteristics of the Brahma Viharas that they each have. And then I'm going to go into the Brahma Viharas, and I'm going to look at specific characteristics and how we can start working with them now. The first characteristics, and a lot of these, the first 3 characteristics that I'm going to be giving are from an article by Dhyana Panika Thera, and he wrote The Power of Mindfulness in the Heart of Buddhist Meditation. But he says, so the first characteristic is they are said to be excellent or sublime. And Brahma Vihara, Brahma is in the Hindu terms is the god, or up there high, divine abodes. So it's this very sublime, excellent, because they are the right or ideal way of conduct towards living beings. They provide, in fact, the answer to all situations arising from social contact. They are the great removers of tension, the great peacemakers in social conflict, and the great healers of wounds suffered in the struggle of existence. They level social barriers, build harmonious communities, revive joy and hope long abandoned, and promote human brotherhood against the forces of egotism. Now, that's just the first characteristics, and that's a big ask right there, that these Brahma Viharas can do this. Thich Nhat Hanh says, if you learn to practice loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity, you will know how to heal the illnesses of anger, sorrow, insecurity, hatred, loneliness, and unhealthy attachments. And that's just the first. That's the first characteristic. The second characteristic is because they're called abodes, that vihara is the term for abodes or home, because they should become the mind's constant dwelling place where we feel at home. They should not remain merely places of rare and short visits. In other words, our mind should become thoroughly saturated by them. They should become our inseparable companions, and we should be mindful of them in all our common activities. Last week, Debbie talked a lot about the defilements, greed, hatred, and delusion, how they cover us, and how these, as we practice, these become our home. Instead of greed, hatred, and delusion, the four Brahma Viharas become where we reside. That's our home. Pina Chopin says, we have four friends in our hearts waiting to do our bidding. They have to be searched for in our hearts. So the third characteristics are also known as boundless states. Thich Nhat Hanh calls them the four immeasurable minds. They're boundless because in their perfection and their true nature, they are not narrowed by any limitation as to the range of beings toward whom they are extended. Remember when our metta, we go, may all beings. They should be non-exclusive and impartial, not bound by selective preferences or prejudices. A mind that has attained to that boundlessness of the Brahma Viharas will not harbor any national, racial, religious, or class hatred. That's another big ask. That's another big promise for this. The fourth characteristics is that they can be developed. They can be developed through specific meditation practices. And hopefully over the next 4 weeks, you'll get some specific practices other than the metta that we do here. You'll be able to get some more practices there. But they can also be done you'll also see them as they start to arise when you do your meditation practice. When I was first coming along, we heard about the two wings of the dove, and you had the wisdom inside over here, and then you had the heart or the Brahma Viharas over on this side. But what I have found, and you'll see as you practice and begin to see suffering and the cause of suffering, and you begin to see, well, I don't want this, or you find ways of letting go, compassion and equanimity and loving kindness naturally begin to arise. So they're not really separate. They really, as you do the practices, these as we begin to let go the things the way we want things, these will begin to arise naturally within us. So the fifth characteristics, every one of them has a proximate cause, and I'm going to spend some more time on that tonight. But that's just saying when this happens, these arise within me. When this situation happens, this arises within me, and I'll go over what those are. The sixth characteristic, and I'll be using it a lot tonight, will be they each have a near and a far enemy. And the far enemy we kind of know, we can see really easily, quickly. It's that near enemy, and we'll be talking a lot about the near enemy tonight. That's the one we really need to be aware of. And the seventh characteristics is that they are not individual. They're not independent. They can be developed. You'll experience them individually. But Jack Kornfield says, their complementary qualities help to balance one another. For example, loving kindness and compassion can lead to attachment. Their warmth needs to be balanced with equanimity, because equanimity can lead to excessive detachment. Its coolness needs to be balanced with loving kindness and compassion. So even though where we talk about these individually, they really do have to be, that you develop all four because they need to be balanced out and they balance each other. So those are like 6 or 7 overall characteristics of the Brahma Viharas. So what I want to look at tonight is I want to look at each one of them, define it, and then look at what's the near and far enemy and what's the proximate cause of these. So the first one is loving kindness. It's a selfless wishing of happiness and well-being for others. Friendliness, but a lot about this is well-being. I want this well-being for others. I want it for everyone else. It's what we say in here, may you be safe and protected. May you be healthy and strong. But it's that selfless wishing. Its proximate cause is seeing the good qualities in others. And as we start to live in community, as we start to come back together, we'll have the opportunity to see the good qualities in other people. And that's that proximate cause, being able to see not only in other people, but also in ourselves. You'll begin to see a lot of it's in others, these good qualities in others. These Brahma Viharas start to break down separation between people. We begin to see that we all have the same wishes. We all have the same needs. We all suffer. So it starts to break down this. So we have this proximate cause. We see these good qualities in others. The far enemy of loving kindness is anger or aversion. And that's one of the defilements. It's also when we do our meditation practice, when we talk about the hindrances, it's one of the hindrances. And the antidote to the hindrance of anger, ill will, is loving kindness, sending loving kindness to someone. It's easy to know when you're coming out of anger. Okay, I know I'm angry. I'm angry. Well, I'm obviously not in doing loving kindness if I'm angry or aversion or having ill will towards somebody. But what's this far enemy? I mean, that's the far enemy. What's this near enemy? I hope I get these right. That's the far enemy. The near enemy is attachment or conditioned love. Ajahn Pasano says, when the heart moves too close to something, and then it shifts from being loving kindness to greed and grasping. And that goes back to this thing, the selfless wish. I'm not asking for something in return. When we're doing loving kindness, it's this selfless. We're not asking, we don't want to be attached to this. Oh, I want you to be safe and protected because you're going to be nice to me. And we have to be aware of that. I know when I'm in anger or ill will, but do I know if I'm getting too close and too attached to someone? Compassion. This is just the wish to alleviate suffering of others, to wish that all beings are free of pain. May you be free from suffering. The far enemy of compassion is cruelty. And we see that in the world today. We see that. We see when cruelty happens, compassion arises within us. So it's pretty obvious, do no harm, that being cruel. But we also have to be aware of things like speech and thought. If I'm cutting someone or I'm putting someone down, that's cruelty. So I have to be aware of that. That's not compassion. So we want to do no harm. And if we think if you think of that's right intention. That's the second step on the Noble Eightfold Path. Right intention, do no harm. Right speech is on down there is one of the steps. So we know if we're doing in cruelty, we're not in compassion. So what's the near enemy of compassion? Pity, sorrow, or grief. Pina Chopin says, Pity arises when we are sorry for someone. Compassion arises when we are sorry with someone. And I forgot this proximate cause. This proximate cause is just seeing pain and helplessness in those who are disadvantaged or taken over by some misfortune. We see pain, but the proximate cause, we see this suffering. We see what's going on in the Ukraine, and compassion arises within us. We could see someone on the streets, compassion arises within us. But we have to be aware of this idea of pity and sorrow versus compassion. The heart can sometimes be weighed down by sorrow and grief. It can be overwhelming. That's not compassion. Compassion has a positive, uplifting quality, and it motivates us to help or to action. We can get too weighed down with grief and sorrow or pity. Oh, I'm sorry for you. But true compassion motivates us. It goes back to that characteristics that is boundless. All the Brahma Viharas are boundless. There's no limit to these. And that, to me, boundlessness is this openness, this available to everyone. It's available at any time. That's that boundlessness of these Brahma Viharas. So be aware if we're pity or sorrow or grief, that's that near enemy of compassion. And we don't want to get caught in that. Sympathetic joy. That's just simply Pinashovan because of joy with others. And it's really it's characterized as a gladdening at others' successes, a delighting in the success, the goodness, and the well-being of others. Unenvious, not being jealous. That's sympathetic joy. Its proximate cause is simply seeing the success of others. This person's doing well, this person's got a promotion, this person got a new job, whatever it is, that seeing someone have success or happiness in their life, that's the proximate cause. So what arises within us? The far enemy could be envy, resentment, or jealousy. If I'm resentful or jealous or envy, I'm not having sympathetic joy. But the near enemy, so what's the near enemy? It's this exuberance, this insincerity, this merriment, this frivolous delight. Southerners are really good at this. I'm so glad you got that. I can hear it now. That is just great. That is just great. And then it's just covering up our envy. Southerners are very good at that. And I'm one of them. I know it. I can do it very well. So I have to be really careful. It's that insincerity, that exuberance. Oh, this is just wonderful, great. When you're really jealous down inside. And I'm not the only Southerner in here. So I'm not going to name names, people, and out here too. So when we hear Jnana Panika there says, your life will gain in joy by sharing the happiness of others as if it were yours. And I think I gave a talk on sympathetic joy not too long ago, and I learned this is where we deny ourselves happiness by not sharing in the happiness of other people. This is the teaching on happiness for me in the Buddhist teachings, that if I share in your happiness, I will be happier. Pina Chopin says, joy with others is a sure antidote for depression. One cannot always have joyful occasions, joyful thoughts in one's own life, but if one has joy with other people, one can surely find something to be happy about. So, but be aware of that. Is it really, am I envious of joy? Am I being sincere about it? Because that's where you get into the near enemy. And the last one is equanimity. This is a quality which brings about a sense of neutrality or an evenness of heart toward all things. It's equanimity, it's balance, that steadiness of mind and heart. Being equanimous. Can I be steady? I'm not buffeted about by all the winds of the world, what's happening around there. Can I be balanced through this? That's the steadiness. Now, its proximate cause is a little bit different. Its proximate cause is the understanding the nature of karma. And karma is this idea that if I act with unwholesome intentions, I'm going to create more suffering. If I act with unwholesome intentions, I'm going to create more suffering. If I act with wholesome intentions, I'm going to create less suffering. And so that's the thing of karma, the law of karma. The other thing about karma is I am the owner of my own karma. I am the owner of mine. I'm not the owner of yours. I can't make yours better. I can't make yours different. I can't do that. So I'm not responsible for your karma. I'm responsible for my karma. So I have to be that. That's what the idea here is, that I'm aware of that. I know that. Because we get taught up, if I can fix this person, or I can do that, if they would do that, they would be better. So that's not karma. That's not equanimity. Another cause of what for me for equanimity that helps me is this idea of impermanence. One of the teaching on impermanence. Everything's impermanent. This is going to change. This is going to change. And if I hold on to it and try to make it permanent, I'm going to suffer, and I'm going to be bounced around. I'm not going to be balanced. So that's equanimity has that. The far enemy of equanimity is aversion, greed, or clinging. What's that? The second noble truth. That's suffering. That's what the cause of suffering is, clinging. So if I'm suffering and clinging, I must not be in a state of equanimity. The near enemy is indifference or detachment. And that one we have to be aware of. Well, I really don't, that's okay. When you think of indifference and detachment, you're getting out of a feeling there. You're not engaged. That indifference. John Paseo says, true equanimity does not hinder compassion or action, but rather enhances it by developing the discernment that knows how and when to engage. So the equanimity gives us the balance to be able to be engaged. We're not here. We're not indifferent. We're not detached from things. We're here. We're engaged, but we can maneuver through it, and it gives us discernment and the ability and the time and the patience to act, because we can see the far enemy. It's that near enemy that we want to be. Am I just being indifferent? I detach from this. So those are some of the ways of working. Those are the 4 Brahma Viharas. We have their proximate cause. We have their near and their far enemy. So over the next 4 weeks, you're going to hear more and more about details on each one of these, how to work with them. But even this week, so my thought for you this week is to kind of pay attention to what's arising, because we always have to have mindfulness. Over all this, you've got to be mindful. But this week, be aware, when is compassion arising within me? When is indifference arising within me? When is true sympathetic joy arising? When is envy arising within me? So we can see these proximate causes. There's someone successful. What is arising within me right now? I see a good quality in someone else. What's arising within me? So spend this week working with these, just kind of being aware of these. And then as you hear more about them, you can begin to work with the practices around them and see and to get more, detailed and into them. So we do want to investigate these. We want to see the Buddha and teaches us, instructs us to examine our mind and body to see the real nature of our feelings and the qualities of our state of mind. So take the time this week to start to look at these. And then as we work with these more over the next 4 weeks, then you can do what the Buddha always says do. Did it work for you? As you start to come back into community, as you start to interact with people, are these useful practices for you? Thank you.